But now on that big story about President Trump denying what he said on the Access Hollywood tape and what he previously admitted, we turn to a Trump critic who knows the man better than most, Tony Schwartz, who co-authored The Art of the Deal and is now donating new royalties from that book sale to immigrant rights groups. Tony, what does it mean when Donald Trump says the thing that he apologized for and admitted he said was maybe a hoax?
That he's decompensating. That's a psychiatric term, but what it means in simple terms is he's losing his grip on reality. His reality testing is really poor, and I believe that's exactly what's going on.
You have known him for quite some time. You collaborated in a way that is unusual. He's obviously no stranger to the media, but in a lot of bites that he tends to exert control over. In your relationship with him, and you had this sort of break because you wrote the book, but you guys are not on the same team, to say the least, you were around him in more settings. When you see Donald Trump today, and when you see what he's saying that is false, is it about what you saw then, or do you see a change?
You know, there's a pretty dramatic change. He is more limited in his vocabulary. He's further from, as I say, this connection to what is factual and real. He is more impulsive. He is more reactive. This is a guy in deep trouble. And one of the problems we have right now is that we're not very sympathetic to the psychological and to the psychiatric community, but that's who we need to be talking to right now. We need to be really bringing in psychiatrists because this is a man who is deeply mentally ill, and literally, for example, I know that 2 different people from the White House, or at least saying they were from the White House and that turned out to be a White House number, have called somebody I know in the last several weeks to say, we are deeply concerned about his mental health.
Wait a minute, you're saying you have knowledge of people calling from a White House line raising that question? Why would they do that? How do you know that?
I know that because I know the person that they called. And there's a person who I absolutely trust, who has great integrity. And this is also, by the way, confirming, I think, something that Vanity Fair wrote in a different context about the concern in the White House. I believe there are people who are concerned. Most of them, I think, are hostages to a cult leader. When you watch Sarah Huckabee Sanders right now, you really feel as if you're watching somebody who is being brainwashed or has been brainwashed. But there are some people who recognize what's going on in the White House, and all of America needs to understand that this is a person who is now exceptionally dangerous because he is losing his grip.
What is your understanding, the objective of the people allegedly making those calls?
I think to get help and advice in how to deal with someone who no longer seem to be connected to reality.
They're afraid.
Oh, absolutely. Terrified.
Well, you're breaking some news. I want to play some of Donald Trump from the 80s, the older Donald Trump who you knew then. Here he was, younger Donald Trump, you should say, you're right. Here he was on the Today Show.
Right now, Jen, I love what I'm doing. I built up one of the greatest companies, and I'm very proud of it, and there's probably nothing like it. And I'm very proud of what we've done and what I've been able to do.
The demeanor there also strikingly different.
Strikingly different. I mean, listen, what happens to a person who's under the kind of pressure and threat he is, and I believe that what it accounts for that is Flynn's imminent flip or apparent flip, willingness to tell the story, because I believe what's causing his decompensation at this level is his belief that they are going to get him on Russia. I think that there's a very good chance that Mueller has that, as you've been saying, has that evidence, and I think Trump is terrified of that. So he is both striking out and he's deflecting, and he's in a survival state. I've said this before, but he's in a state of fight or flight, in which you lose the capacity to reflect, you lose the capacity to think rationally and logically, and you simply lash out and react in an attempt to defend yourself. And what he's defending himself against is an inner sense of emptiness.
It's fascinating, given that you have spent more time up close with him than most independent analysts. I have to note that you're not a doctor and neither am I. What you're reporting on, what you're sharing, is alleged calls made by people at the White House, which itself is newsworthy, even if a lot of these questions remain to be adjudicated. Tony Schwartz, as always, thank you for your time. Coming up, Jay-Z speaking about President Trump.